Hey guys, my name is xOctoManx and this is a tutorial addition to my spawn game object on random positions. And as I had a lot of requests about how can I actually avoid double spawning on one particular point or spawn point, I want to go over and cover this one in this tutorial video. So the first and most important one is I go over everything just for a second, so everyone who hasn't seen that has actually the possibility to go over and do that stuff. So what I created is an empty game object in the last video and several spawn points where we have the possibility to spawn objects at, and I use those transforms to actually spawn anything like coins or whatever you need and like. In the spawn script, we were creating an array of transforms for our spawn points, a spawn delay time, and a game object array where we have the possibility to change or take several types of coins, for example, and spawn them at random too. Also, we started to invoke repeat the spawn items function, where we have the possibility to take the spawn time we were just creating and repeat the whole script part, or actually the spawn items function, at that spawn time and repeat that every spawn time once again. In spawn items itself, we randomly chosen the spawn index point, which is one of those transform spawn points, and also we choose a random spawn object from the array we were creating. So after that, we instantiate that particular chosen coin with the chosen spawn object's int, which is taken from the array, and spawn that at the spawn point's position with the current spawn index, which is the item in the transform array or list. So if there is a randomly chosen spawn index of maybe 0, it will automatically spawn that spawn object, which is whatever coin has been chosen of that array, and spawn that at a particular position and that particular rotation of the spawn point in our script. So as we also did, we filled in all the spawn points transform into that array. So the size of it in my case is going to be 8. You can push all that spawn points to whatever position you want. And also I have set again my spawn point or my spawn time to 1.5, and in its coin array I just dragged in a red coin and a yellow coin. Those red and yellow coins have one destroy script, so they will get destroyed after a given amount of time. So I will go over and cover this one for you too. We have a destroy time in this destroy script, and we start to destroy that game object after a given amount of destroy time, in this case 3 seconds. So also I'm gonna rotate those coins over their forward vector, and they rotate with a rotation speed, and that's it. They don't do anything at the moment. I just covered some other stuff, but I will skip that since it's not important for this tutorial. So let's see what's currently happening. When I press start, item spawn will spawn every 1.5 seconds one coin of its own choose. That means he chooses is it yellow or is it red, but as you can see, it will also take the same even if the spawn point already is taken, and drop or spawn another coin on the same position. And that's what we are going to take care of that in this video. So let's get started with that. Again, you have several possibilities to do so. You can use triggers and colliders and stuff, but I believe it's maybe easier to change stuff directly in the spawn item script and in the destroy script, so we don't have to handle triggers and get rid of, or actually take another script which is handling all that triggers and collider stuff. Also, that can be pretty much imprecise, so I go over and store everything in a list and compare it whatever is in that list or what is not in that list. So let me explain that pretty quick. At first, what we want to do is we want to use a new namespace. This is going to be using system.collections.generic. So why do we need that? Is we want to make use of lists, as I already said, so we need to take care of that. We have that already in our script. I'm gonna leave a space in here, and what I want to do right now is I want to create that list, and it needs to be public since we write and read from it from outside. So we create a list of type transform, since our spawn points are also of type transform, and we call this one possible spawns. So we say equals to a new list of type transform, brackets, and close the line. So possible spawns will later on already hold all possible spawn points, but will not affect the spawn points array. This list will automatically update when a specific spawn point is taken by any coin. So what we need to do in start is we need to fill that possible spawn points list with all the spawn points we have in our transform array, and we can automate that in the start itself, or we take an extra function for this and call this from start or from any point we want. So what we want to do is at first we create a for loop and loop through all spawn points in that array and pass all that spawn points which are needed for us and take them into that possible spawn points list. So we loop through that at first. So we say for int I is going to be equal to 0. We start at the element 0 in that array, while I is going to be smaller than the spawn points array.length. We increment I. So we go through that pretty quick. And what we want to do is, while we are looping through that, we want to add all that items in spawn points array. So what we say is possible spawns dot add. So we add something to our list, and in normal brackets we can say what we want to add in here, and it says it's of type transform we want to add, and in this case it is going to be spawn points and square brackets I. So we add in all items we are looping through into the possible spawns list. Okay, after we are done, we can just go over and do the rest of that stuff. And here I can say fill possible spawns. So you know later on what it's going to do. Again, you can place this stuff into an extra function and call that at any point. You don't need to do that at start. If you want to have a special event, for example, you can call that fill list stuff whenever you want, and so also you can always go over and delete everything from that list by remove everything from it or clear it. Pretty simple. Okay, so now we need to change a bit stuff in the spawn items function in here. So the first two lines will stay at that at the moment, but what we want to do is, instead of taking the spawn index of the spawn points, we want to take the possible spawns in here, and possible spawns is not getting the length. We need to take possible spawns dot count, since lists don't use lengths like arrays do. We do have count instead of length. So make sure that you change that to possible spawns dot count. Also, in the instantiation, we need to say create something a bit different, since we need to have access to our currently instantiated coin, since we want to pass over the spawn points parameter. So as a transform, of course. So what we do is we don't just instantiate it, but we want to create a new game object and call this one maybe new coin. It doesn't really matter. We just need a connection to that newly instantiated coin. And in the very end or in the very front, we need to typecast that game object. I do that at the very end. So I say as game object. So now we typecast our newly created coin, and now we have access to it. That means we can access any script we have on that newly created coin. So what we now can say is new coin dot, and now we can get the component out of that, and we need to get the connection to the destroy script. So we go over and take that. Since it's on the coin, we can instantly go and take that. Then what we can do is we can access everything. For now, we just leave it as it is. I'm gonna save the script and go to our destroy script. This script now needs to hold the information to the spawn point this particular coin was actually spawned at. So at first, this script needs also a connection back to my spawn script. In my case, it's going to be called new spawn script, since I had to rewrite everything. And what we need to do is we need to create a new private instance or connection to this. So we say new spawn script in my case. In your case, it might just be spawn script or whatever you called it. And I just shorten this or call this NSS for a new spawn script. So I can actually instantly create a connection to that. Also, I need to find that game object which is holding it. If you are taking this one to be public, you can also go into the inspector and drag it in manually. So what I say is NSS is going to be equal to GameObject.find. So I want to find a specific game object, or basically a tagged game object, or whatever I want. In my case, since I have only one spawn script basically which holds that information, and I call this one item spawn. So I want to get that game object. Again, you can also tag it and search for a tagged item like this. So I need to make sure that I write that 100% correct. And then what I want to do is I want to get a component out of that one, and this is the component we want to store, and this is going to be new spawn script in this case. So we say new spawn script brackets and then a semicolon, so we end the line. So now we found that game object and have access to it. What we need to do next is we need to change the destroy time a bit. So I comment this out pretty quick since I don't need that. And instead of destroying all of that stuff, we're gonna use an IE numerator for destroying of the game objects after a given amount of time. You again can do it a bit different, like when the user has clicked on something, then go over and destroy it. But I want to do that after a given amount of time, which is in my case 3 seconds, as I said before. Okay, so what I want to do now is I also need a public variable here where I can pass in the transform of the spawn point, or actually the transform of the spawn point, which this particular coin has been gone over. So I call this one also spawn point, or better I do my spawn point, and that's pretty much it. It needs to be public, otherwise I cannot pass in the spawn point from the spawn script. Oops. And what I want to do is in here, don't forget to save destroy script for a second. And what I can go over in here is I go to that line once again, and what I say is in the destroy script I want to take the my spawn point and I want to set this one to the spawn point which has been chosen of the spawn index. So what I do is new coin.get component destroy script dot my spawn point, which is available again in the destroy script itself when you have made this one public. Then I will say equals to possible spawns and then in square brackets the spawn index. And the spawn index has been chosen over here. It will be taken every 1.5 seconds in my case. So every time a game object is going to be instantiated, I go over to that instantiated game object, call the my spawn point and set the my spawn point to the currently chosen possible spawn point. Also, I want to make sure that this spawn point is not accessible until it's coming back into that list. So I remove that from the list. So I say possible spawns dot remove at, so I can remove an item at a specific position in that, and in normal brackets I can set any int index I want. And in my case, the int index is going to be the spawn index we were actually choosing over there. Don't forget to end the line and save the script. Let's go back to destroy script. In here again, I will go over and create an IE numerator. And in there, I want to do several things. At first, I want to create the IE numerator itself. Numerator, and call this one maybe destroy me. So now I have the possibility to call this since it has a name. And what I want to do at first is I want to wait the time before the destroy time is actually happening. So otherwise it would get destroyed instantly. So what we say is yield return new wait for seconds. And in that seconds, I can say the destroy time. And the line. Now, what we can do at the next point is we can go and loop through the spawn points and check at what position it is and return back this spawn point to the possible spawn points list. Okay, so let's do that. At first, we loop through everything once again. I'm gonna leave a space in here. So what I do is I loop through and I equals 0 while I is smaller again. The NSS, which is the connection to our game object, NSS dot spawn points dot length. So we loop through the whole spawn points array we were creating. And we say we increment I. So we loop through all of them again. We could also use a for each, but for each can be sometimes very picky, so I choose a for loop instead. And what we want to check is if the NSS dot spawn points I, so if this item wherever we are just in is the same item as my spawn point, so the spawn point of the already spawned coin, then I want to do something. And what I want to do in here is I want to pass in that parameter back to this possible spawns list. So NSS dot possible spawns dot add, so we add back that particular item we just found, and we pass in the parameter from the spawn points in square brackets I. So the one item we were looping through. Also, after we were looping through and passing that particular possible spawn points back, then we want to destroy the game object. So we say destroy in normal brackets game object. And that's it. So now we have a really simple avoidance or double spawn avoid script part, since we take away that spawn point from the list, and since there is no access to it anymore because we just removed that particular item and we spawn that at the possible spawn point, possible spawn index. The only thing is we need to change stuff in the new coin instantiated line. What does it mean is, instead of instantiating that at a spawn point with the spawn index, we need to instantiate that at the possible spawns. So copy that, and the same for the rotation. It's going to be possible spawns in square brackets spawn index dot rotation and possible spawns at spawn index dot position. And that's it. Gonna save everything, save destroy script, save new script or new spawn script, and let's see if everything is going to work. So let's check the item spawn in here. I still have the coins which have or can be edited, and I have all my spawn points still in that spawn point array, and everything is the same, and possible spawn list is going to be empty, so the size is 0. When I now start the game, you can see it automatically fills in all possible spawn points into that list, since we looped through that in the start function and added this one to the possible spawn points list while looping through. Now the next one is going to be, it will choose any coin or two and will remove that possible spawn points from that list. So as you can see, the number 4 and the number 6 has been taken. I can also show you this one. This is the 4, this is the 6. So at that point, there are no possibilities to spawn that once again, since there is no point in that list to be spawned stuff at. This will only be respawnable at that point when the coin is going to get destroyed. There you can see it will always fill in everything in here only when there is any point to spawn stuff at. And once the list is full, you get an argument out of range, since there is no point left. So we can also go over and get rid of that part. So we can say only do that stuff in here when the possible spawn points .count is going to be greater or bigger than 0. So we clamp that into a if statement. So if possible spawns .count is going to be bigger than 0, only then spawn a game object, so we don't get an argument out of range. And in the destroy script, we didn't actually start the IE numerator destroy me. So what we do is at start, instead of going to call destroy, we just say start coroutine in brackets destroy me, and another pair of brackets once again. This is one possibility to start that coroutine. You can also start the coroutine by calling the string name. Instead of doing that like this, you can also set this one into strings. So it doesn't matter whatever you choose. If you have to pass in later on arguments, then this is the one you take. Okay, so now we start destroy me. After 3 seconds, the game object will be destroyed. So at first it will wait, loop through everything, and then get and pass back that particular parameter, which is the spawn point. We gonna fill in the possible spawn points back and then destroy the coin or game object. So let's start that once again. As you will see in just a second, we have 8 spawn points to or possible spawns to pass in. Now we have 7, we will have 6 in a second. So like this. And in the next step, as you can see, the number 3 was chosen and number 1 got back to the list. As you can see at the very bottom, there is spawn point 1 and got added back to the list at the very end. And since it's a list, it doesn't really matter at what position it is, since lists are dynamic. So we can take away stuff and put that back into the list. As you can see, 1, 4 and 3 already have been taken and got added at the very end of the list, but are still accessible at any point. So now number 1, for example, as you can see, could be taken once again, but is then taken away from that list, and that's how we avoid double spawning. This is one of I don't know how many possibilities to avoid double spawning. Thanks for watching the tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Thumbs this video up if you like it, and feel free to become my patron or donate by using PayPal to support me and my channel in the future. All links will be below in the description. See you in the next tutorial. Bye bye.